Hello, everybody, and welcome to something a little bit different. I don't know if I'll ever do anything like this again, but I've been playing a lot of the Overwatch 2 beta, the second one, and I kind of wanted to get my thoughts and feelings and all that kind of stuff out there for anybody who is interested. I'm coming at it from the point of view that I'm a fairly casual, if regular, Overwatch, the original Overwatch 1 player. And I mainly play the game for fun. And I think most importantly, I mainly play tank or support. There are a lot of people who look at Overwatch 2 and think that it is fundamentally the same game. And I understand where that comes from. It looks the same. In small doses, it plays the same. But at its heart, Overwatch 2 is completely different from Overwatch. And by that, I mean, Overwatch was built on this idea that you had three distinct roles. And it was more welcoming to people who didn't want to play just a normal first-person shooter game, didn't want to play Call of Duty, just didn't want to go pew, damage. Overwatch 2 gets rid of that. Overwatch 2 is pure FPS, DPS. The idea of tanking, trying to be there to support your team, block damage, is gone. As a tank, you're basically just a sustainable DPS who jumps in, DPS, everybody else follows you, and you hope for the best. And that is kind of the most important thing, I think, to know about Overwatch 2 is that at its core ethos, its core message of what it's trying to be as a game has completely and utterly changed. And if you played Overwatch because you didn't just want to be pure pew damage, you're probably not going to like Overwatch 2. Now, it is going to be free to play. I do highly recommend everybody try it. I do not recommend anybody buys the Watchpoint, whatever it's called, pack, 34, 35 British pounds, I believe it was, to get guaranteed beta access, because that's just awful. It's a scummy move. Full confession, a friend of mine did buy that pack for me, which is how I got access to it. I would not have paid that money myself. Do not pay to test somebody else's game. Like, that is just awful. It's a horrible move and they shouldn't have done it. And of course, the beta itself is also pretty bad. Now, I want to cover this from a number of different angles. The actual gameplay experience it's not too bad. The levels work. It hasn't crashed on me. Everything has been fine. There's been no real glaring technical issues. But, it's essentially, this is where the kind of, it's just Overwatch 1 with a new skin on it. And yes, from that point of view, it 100% is. It's Overwatch 1 with a new skin on it. That's all it is. And I honestly don't think it looks quite as colorful and vibrant and pleasant as Overwatch. It seemed to have a kind of more gritty, not very gritty, it's Blizzard after all, but kind of a more gritty look to it. And I think that goes hand in hand with it. I think Overwatch 2 is going to appeal to a different player base. It's going to appeal to the DPS player base. The ones who moan all the time are the ones who have been listened to. And I think Overwatch 2 has been made with them in mind, and to try and get more of, probably try and get some of the Valorant crowd in. And other games like that. I can't think of any other games like that at the moment. Valorant is the only one I can think of. I mean, CSGO maybe. Who kind of got turned off by Overwatch's kind of, no, I just want to shoot people. How am I meant to shoot people if someone's got a great big shield up? That's just dumb, right? Well, actually, no, I thought that was quite fun. And it meant you had to have tactics, but tactics go out the window. So, let's cover the tanks. Well, let's cover the tanks and the DPS. So, both tank and DPS have had new things to try out during there's new content for them. So on the tank side, you've got Doomfist is now a tank, and of course you had the brand new tank come in who is Junker Queen, and just the simple fact that tanks have gone from there being two tanks normally to one tank means they have basically reworked every tank to a higher degree than others. Reinhardt is essentially still Reinhardt. He's the only barrier tank. He's still incredibly useful. I think he's one of the most powerful ones. If you can get a team together, stick on the payload, walking in with a shield, he still does really well. He's also powerful in attack with his hammer and double flame strike, but he's very good at actually escorting a team in, which doesn't seem to be the playstyle Blizzard wants anymore. Orisa, if you liked Orisa, again, because she had the barrier and she was very tanky to stand back, you know, with the payload, walking in slowly, keep the team safe. Orisa, I think, is the embodiment of what Blizzard now wants tanks to be. Orisa is fun, but she's an attack. She's a DPS. That's all Orisa is now. There's no kind of ability to kind of save your team. It's all about saving yourself. And that's kind of the way tanks are looked at now. Tanks are there to look after themselves, with the support trying to help them. But, you know, there has been new stuff to try. Doomfist as a tank is honestly, I think, terrible. I think the design is bad. I don't think he helps the team at all. And 9 times out of 10, if you start a game and you see your tank has gone as Doomfist, you're probably going to lose, unless the opposing team has also gone Doomfist, then you might have a chance. But, you know, my experience, I'm sure there are people who are loving Doomfist, but I think he's terrible by design and is essentially the same as he was DPS, but is now considered a tank for some reason, and it makes no sense to me. DPS, they had obviously the one new DPS character who is, again, quite fun. Oh, I didn't even mention Junker Queen as part of the tanks. I like Junker Queen, but she, again, plays very much like a DPS, apart from her one ability where she kind of gives everybody temporary extra health and speeds everybody up. It's a really powerful maneuver. She's a really powerful character. She's basically Roadhog with a little bit of life and speed boost, but she is a very powerful character who is very fun to play. Very easy to keep alive by herself, which again is the new tank philosophy, and can do a crap ton of damage. Real fun. You know, credit where credit is due. DPS, they had the one new character who again is a lot of fun. Can't really complain about the character. I think the gun is a little bit too powerful. Especially if they have a tank that is, well, any tank, because tanks are so large, they're so easy to hit. So basically her attack comes down to do your normal fire to charge up your railgun and then do a great big railgun attack. And if you just basically charge up on a tank and then do your railgun on a DPS or a support, the support or DPS will die probably in that one hit. It's a fairly easy rotation. It's a fairly easy gun to master, and I think it's a little bit too over the top, and there'll probably be nerfs and everything. But again, I'm not too sure because I still don't know how we're going to like unlock heroes going forward, whether it's going to be brought for cash. If you're going to buy the heroes for cash, probably the latest hero will always be more powerful than the others because that's a good business model. It's a way to make money. But anyway, I don't really want to concentrate on that in this video. Anyway, support has got nothing new. Support is incredibly stale. There's no new hero to try out. None of them have really changed that much. And honestly, support just feels like a chore now. And it's no longer support. And this was kind of really clarified to me when I went onto the Overwatch 2 forums. I know, what was I thinking, right? But I went onto the Overwatch 2 forums because, again, I was just, curious. Am I the only one who finds support a chore now? I didn't think I was because there's basically no queue time for support. Nobody is queuing to play support. So as soon as you log in and are willing to basically have a bad time, you'll get into a game straight away. But is it worth it? I don't know. But yeah, like I say, support is incredibly stale. There's nothing new, nothing new to try out. No new hero, no new character to play around with. And yeah, the act of trying to keep everybody alive. So what happens now, because tanks are basically invulnerable, more or less, especially if they've got two supports looking after them. DPS are off doing their own thing. The tank is often off doing their own thing. Most players now know the healers must die. The support must die. It's, if you ever played World of Warcraft or anything else like that, the healers must die. And that is very true in Overwatch 2. The healers must die, and they must die first. If you're playing support, expect to die a lot. Or completely change your playstyle, which is what Overwatch 2 is trying to encourage you to do. You are no longer background passive. I don't want to say passive. You're no longer background support. You're not standing back, keeping people up. You are in the fight. You are dueling the DPS as much as you would be if you were just another DPS. You're trying to keep yourself alive while trying to heal everybody else. It's not the same as it was. Is it fun? For me personally, no. I liked the fact that if I just wanted to be pure pew pew DPS, there was a damage queue. If I wanted to try and keep people healed or, support them in some way, there was a support queue. And if I wanted to tank, be the kind of front line, keeping everybody going, walking slowly with the payload, there was the tank queue. It's all DPS now. If you're not playing your healers aggressively, Mercy is kind of odd one out at this stage. She's not really passive. If you're not flying around healing everybody and keeping away from the damage coming in, you're going to die as Mercy a hell of a lot. You need to be moving constantly. They've made her movement a little bit easier. You don't have to do the control height thing by yourself anymore. It does it by itself, which is something, I guess. It's new, at least. But yeah, my main point here is that if you're expecting Overwatch to just switch, Overwatch 2 just brings Overwatch, puts a new lick of paint on it, and you're going to be playing the same game, you're going to be disappointed. Overwatch 2 is, at its core, very, very different. And I think this is a message that is worth people knowing, is that Overwatch 2 is DPS all the way. It's about aggressiveness. And if you thought payloads were abandoned and pointless before, you've seen nothing yet. People just want to fight. They don't give a rat's ass about the payloads. They don't stand by them. So whoever the poor sucker is who normally stands by the payload to keep it moving, more often than not is just some lonely poor support character, just dies when the enemy realizes what's going on and has completely defeated your team because the support has stayed back. And then you're just done for. One other thing, they've got a new game mode. It's very much similar to the Paladins game mode, where there's a payload where you can escort both ways and it moves backwards and forwards depending on who's in control. It's pretty fun. It's not great, but it's fine. It works. The maps are on a really quite beautiful, actually. The Toronto map especially stands out to me as just being a really nice looking map. It's fine. It's nothing groundbreaking, and again, it just leads to a lot of fights a lot of the time, which is fine. If that's what you want from the game, that's fine, right? But that wasn't the promise of Overwatch. It's the promise of Overwatch 2. Fight, and that's the main point I want to get across. Anyway, I've waffled on long enough. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you're in the Overwatch 2 beta, how you're feeling. If you're watching it, are you enjoying it? All this kind of good stuff. And yeah, have a good one, and I will see you all when I see you all. Bye for now.